Hello, and welcome to today's Digital Twin Discovery series session. This is the fourth event in the series focused on supporting digital twin readiness for UK businesses. If you're interested in the past events that we've hosted, you can access recordings of those on our website. I'm Ola, Senior Innovation Manager here at Digital Catapult and part of the UK Digital Twin Centre team. And I get the pleasure of introducing today's session and provide a brief overview before handing over to our guest speakers. So during this session, you'll first get to learn more about the UK Digital Twin Centre from myself. You'll then hear from Nathaniel, Commercial Lead of Sans Souci, consulting on digital twin readiness for UK businesses, and who will be later joined by Sans Souci's Managing Director, Andy, for a Q&A session. The Q&A box will be available to you to send questions throughout the event, so please make sure to send those through to us to address during the Q&A session. And following that, we'll hear from my colleague, Asan, Innovation Manager here at Digital Catapult, who will share all about the upcoming opportunities here at the UK Digital Twin Centre. Next slide, please. So at the heart of today's event is the UK Digital Twin Centre, our national initiative co-funded by Innovate UK and Belfast City Council. Operating from the heart of Northern Ireland, the centre accelerates the adoption of digital twins to drive global competitive advantage for UK businesses. Our mission is quite simple, to help UK businesses, especially SMEs, embrace the power of digital twins safely and effectively. So whether that's through access to tools, experts, or collaborative programs, we're here to make it easier to explore and adopt digital twins technologies. We are working to remove barriers to innovation and adoption, to provide reusable expertise, methods, and platforms, provide effective use of demonstrations across industries and challenges, and also make digital twins safe and interoperable. Next slide. So we're a national center of excellence, and more importantly, we're an enabler for digital twins. So that means that we offer hands-on support for UK businesses of all sizes. We work with universities, research and tech organizations, and other tech partners to bring the latest thinking and talent into the center. We also provide access to skilled experts, to centralized tools and platforms, and even lab space to support early development. We've got a wonderful lab in our Belfast office for testing and prototyping. We also have a range of innovation programs, consultancy services, and accelerators, as well as funding being provided through those channels to support the build of different use cases. So you'll hear more on that from Asan in further slides. And we also work to showcase the practical adoption of industry use cases so that others can learn and adapt from what's already working. Next slide. And these are just some of the use cases that we're seeing with our partners, from real-time maritime operations to complex aerospace and defense engineering challenges. Digital twins aren't just theoretical, they're being built and deployed right now with real results with our three partners that we're very lucky to partner with. And those partners are Artemis Technologies, Thales, Spirit Aerosystems, and we're working with them to develop and test a variety of use cases within our center. So let's take a closer look at the core technology areas that we focus on here at the UK Digital Twin Centre. Digital twins are not just a single technology, they're very much a combination of multiple capabilities that work together to create dynamic, intelligent, and trustworthy models of real-world systems. We break them down into 6 key categories. First, we've got cyber-physical asset management. We've got data services, intelligence, UX and visualization, security and trustworthiness, and also integration and interoperability. So whether you're starting from scratch or scaling up, understanding which of these pillars your organization already has and has strengths in, or which you need to develop further, is a crucial step in your digital twin journey. And to support this journey, we're running the Digital Twin Discovery series. So this webinar series has been running throughout the summer and is continuing on throughout autumn to raise awareness of digital twins, to educate people on what those are, and spotlight some of the digital twin products and use cases in the market to inspire businesses to think about the edge their companies could have in adopting digital twins. So keep an eye out for further events that we'll be hosting following this one. And I'd now like to invite Nathaniel and Andy from Sans Souci Consulting to share insights into how they're enabling technologies behind digital twins, their real-world applications, and the tangible value that can be delivered for businesses of all sizes. Over to you two.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Ola. I'll just share my screen here. Here we are. So firstly, my name is Nathaniel. I'm with Sans Souci. Andy, our managing director, will be with us later to facilitate the Q&A. Thank you to the team at Digital Catapult for hosting the event today and to all of you for attending. We're delighted to be here and share some information around digital twin readiness and some of our experience from applying the technologies across multiple different industries. A bit more about us first to begin with. So we help organizations transform, essentially, that's the crux of it. We do this by mapping, analyzing, optimizing, and automating processes and data flows. And only then do we start considering advanced tech like advanced analytics, AI, machine learning ops, modeling and simulations, and even digital twins. Putting that another way and using an analogy, if your house has dodgy wiring and leaky pipes, a lick of paint and some new trimmings isn't going to add any real value. You just put a shiny veneer over a very weak core, and the same principle applies to digital twin. You need to have solid foundations first before you move on to building anything. So we're here to discuss digital twin today, so it's important probably to say what is a digital twin. Um, a twin is more than a 3D model. It's a common misconception. It's a living digital replica that updates with real-time data. A good example of this is thinking of airports, and Heathrow is a good example. They have the NATS demand capacity balancer system that functions as a digital twin of air traffic, so predicting and modeling operational performance. It optimizes their scheduling and cuts emissions by factoring in things like real-time wind data, airspace restrictions, and flight efficiency. So that gives you an overview of what a twin can give you. It can give you live visibility of what's going on in a certain scenario and a safe what if environment for sandbox and scenario planning. Now that we know what a twin is, it's important to examine the why behind twins and why digital twins matter. At its core, a digital twin is a data-driven means of understanding what it takes to solve problems in any complex system, essentially. So that means you can predict how pieces of a system will interact. Your engineers can make better, more well-informed design trade-off decisions, and the risk of those trade-offs can be mitigated through modeling and data. It can strengthen the probability of success across projects by uncovering gaps, quantifying uncertainties, and setting and establishing expectations early. And it can predict how different subsystems or new technologies that you're adopting will interact and perform over time by building custom physics-based models. In the end, a digital twin is a very complex and technically challenging piece of work. It's important to emphasize that, but it comes with high rewards if applied to improving the right decision. To summarize everything there, I think a good way to look at it is digital twins are about moving from hindsight through insight into foresight and predictions. So now that we know what a twin is and why they're important and why they matter, it's as good a time as any to talk about a common trap that we come across regularly or fairly regularly. Um, our industry partners that we work with will often come to us and say, we want a digital twin. And the first question you should always ask in that situation is why? And sometimes the answers can be vague, and this is the trap. It's maybe to be more efficient or drive efficiencies, improve sustainability, or because our competitors have one. We've heard a few times as well. That to me is like saying, I want a treadmill, and that's fine. But what's your goal? Are you training to run a marathon? Are you trying to lose some weight? Or is the treadmill going to sit in the corner of your office collecting dust and having shirts hanging on it. So that means that it's really important they have a very clear, crystal clear problem statement. Otherwise, you run the risk of having a very shiny and nice looking, very expensive demo with no return on investment. Summarizing that again, I think a good way to look at this is you need to answer the following question before you start the digital twin process. What decision will this twin improve, and how will we measure it? So it's business problem first and not jumping straight into tech. In reality, what does this look like? So for us, our approach to any transformation, including digital twin, is a holistic one. We cut across three core pillars of all organizations. That's people, processes, and technology. And applying this to the digital twin space, a typical transformation journey could look something like this. So wanted to make this simple and maybe an ideal transformation journey that's applicable to any organization, regardless of the stage that they're at in their digital transformation journey. So to begin with, you're mapping processes and data flows to understand that. Then you're analyzing your bottlenecks, identifying opportunities and improvements. Then you're moving into optimization and automation. And only then, once you've laid that foundation, will you start thinking about building a twin or a virtual copy, or start thinking about advanced analytics, ML ops, AI, and simulations. And those two stages could potentially be interchangeable depending on what your use case is or what decision you're trying to improve. Following this process and those 5 steps means that the twin will reflect an optimized reality, not a broken one. It's important to stress as well that the value of the twin doesn't just lie in the final model. There is tremendous value in the journey to get there. So to build the twin, you have to map processes. You're analyzing how data flows across your organization. You're looking at decisions. You're looking at handoffs in your organization, and you're analyzing bottlenecks and improvements. That process always reveals surprises. Businesses discover how things really work and not what they thought they worked like. Oftentimes, leadership will say to us, but that's not how we do it. And it ends up the situation where you're looking at the front line or the shop floor, and they've been doing it differently to what leadership thought for years. So that's the bigger picture. The process builds dynamic capabilities in your organization. That means your teams, your people will have the ability to sense opportunities and seize them and then transform your organization. It's not just about what insights you get today from doing this. It's about creating muscle memory, if you want to put it that way, so that your organization is continuously adapting to continuous change that we see in the space that we operate in, whether that's markets, it's technology, or it's the regulatory environment that's changing. There are frameworks to help with the process of deciding whether you're ready for this or not. We have our own framework that we apply to all our transformation projects. It's the Improved DX framework, and we do this alongside other global benchmarks, the likes of Siri, CoSiri, Operi. Digital Catapult also have a range of tools that you should be using or looking at. They're free resources, so don't pass them up, like their data maturity assessments or their digital transformation assessments. And the question you're answering here for yourself is, are you ready for a twin, or are you ready for this new technology? Are you ready to transform, as opposed to, do you need it? Now I'm going to cover a couple of real life examples, case studies of work that we've delivered in the digital twin space before moving on to discussing prerequisites, how to build a twin, and some lessons learned or typical pitfalls, if you want to put it that way. Larnport, sanitary and phytosanitary checks after Brexit presented a huge risk for gridlock. So we built a twin to simulate trade flows, lorry flows, the inspection bays, and then conducted a risk-based assessment on the back of that. The twin shaped how new inspection facilities were built and proved that a semi-automated frictionless border was actually feasible, all while maintaining compliance and keeping trade flowing seamlessly. After this, with Larnport, the process was replicated with Belfast Port to do something a little bit different, which was assessing the moving of seal checks from port of origin to port of arrival. And we simulated that then potentially having cost savings or savings of tens of millions of pounds. And a private sector project that we worked on then, so with Anglo American in the mining space, it was looking at their heavy duty haul trucks and analyzing the viability of hydrogen powered drivetrains in their South African mine site. So we supported the creation of a digital twin here that ran scenario simulations for diesel, for hydrogen, and for battery diesel hybrids, and built the decision-making dashboards that pulled out all the information we needed and that the organization needed to make an informed decision. So it allowed them to make optimized engineering decisions as to how they would move forward with building a truck, and eventually ended up in the decision that hydrogen was inefficient at scale as the infrastructure wasn't there yet, and they were able to build battery diesel hybrids as opposed to the hydrogen models. So there's certain things that you need to have in place. As I said earlier, you need a strong foundation. So that means there are a range of things that your organization needs to have before you can go on a digital twin journey. First and foremost, data is of the utmost importance. It needs to be high quality. It needs to be clean. Without good data, the digital twin process is a non-starter. You need to have a good understanding of your processes, so they need to be mapped ideally, and you need to understand where there's bottlenecks. You need to have a reliable industry Internet of Things infrastructure and pipeline, and your solution architecture for this needs to fit the tech stack that you have in place. The whole process from beginning needs to have simulation and AI mindset in place while you're laying the foundation so that those technologies can be easily adopted when you're ready. Governance around data and security practices are of the utmost importance, from encryption, access controls, audit trails. They all need to be in place before you do this. Your organization needs to be ready. Your people need to be ready for the change, and they need to be ready to go on the journey with you. Essentially, without these in place, you end up in a situation where it's rubbish in, rubbish out. So you need to put these things in place before you think about going on the digital twin journey. Building a digital twin could be summarized in 5 steps. So firstly, step one is capturing raw data, so sensors, your instrumentation. Step two is your industry Internet of Things architecture. So far edge on the device itself, your near edge, gateways, filtering and aggregation, and cloud for maybe advanced analytics, AI, machine learning, integration. Essentially, the closer you bring your compute to the device, the faster and the cheaper your system is going to run. Step three then is streaming and orchestration. So lightweight protocols like MQTT to move your data, APIs and webhooks to push events, and messaging queues like Kafka to orchestrate that flow. Step four, then you're looking at building your virtual copy. So you're binding data to the CAD models or a 3D dashboard or a gamified environment. And here you do have multiple options, which I'll run through. So gamification for gamified twins, you've got the likes of Unity or Unreal Engine, which are immersive, really good. For industrial operations, you've Siemens and ThinkWorks, which are great as well. For web-based lightweight visualizations, the likes of 3.js and Cesium are quite good. So the range of choices, and your choice depends on whether what you need. So whether it's an immersive training environment, it's industrial oversight, or it's a scalable web twin. Step five then is the intelligence layer. So that's adding in your simulations, it's AI, it's machine learning ops, it's adding in that foresight and optimizing everything. This is how you combine everything that we've talked about so far into that live twin with a safe what if testing environment. So thinking about the airport example again, all of the data from wind, air traffic, airspace regulations, all of that stuff pulled in, and a safe environment and a live feed. So some lessons learned for us and typical pitfalls. Unclear objectives or vague objectives, it just leads to no return on investment. You need to know what decision you're improving before you start the process and how you're going to measure it. Bad data or poor quality data, as I said before, it's garbage in, garbage out. So that needs to be first and foremost good data. Over engineering solutions again can be a problem. You end up in science fair space where you've got these lovely shiny demos, but it's went far too much in terms of cost and it's overdone. Connectivity is extremely important. So ignoring that, you do at your peril. If your network fails, your twin's going to fail. So that needs to be sorted. And then another thing that is an issue sometimes is tweeting a twin as a project. It's not. It needs to be capable of evolution with your organization. It grows with you as you grow. So a simplified roadmap for success, this is what it would look like. You need to start small with any technological adoption. It's the same as it is for digital twin, a pilot. understand what decision you're going to improve, how you're measuring it, keep it small. If your prerequisites that we discussed earlier are in place, you could maybe do this in 12 to 16 weeks. Then only when you have proven ROI of what you're doing is when you start scaling, and then you continuously evolve the twin from there on. The twin must be future proof and it needs to be built modularly so that it can grow with your organization. As it said, evolution is of the utmost importance. You don't want to have something that you've built that you need to rip out and rebuild in 3 years' time. Perhaps one of the most important questions of the day is what's in it for you as an organization? And I'm going to pose some questions back to you to get the thought juices flowing on this. So, would you like real-time insights on how your organization is operating? Would seamless identification of operational cost reductions be a benefit for your organization? Could engineers making more informed design decisions or design trade-off decisions have an impact on your bottom line? What impact would predicting the interactions between your subsystems or processes or new technology adoptions have on your operations? These are just some of the things that you can accomplish with a digital twin. And finally, to close, to summarize again, twins aren't just tech projects. They're enablers of foresight, resilience, and can build competitive advantage for your business or your organization. And as much of the value is in the journey, as I said, as it is in the final model, it's in what you discover. It's about how your business really works. So if any of this resonates with you, we're happy to have a talk and we'd love to have a conversation with you about how you do this yourself. Our details are on the screen. Feel free to reach out. Finally, thank you all for your attention today, and thanks again to the Digital Catapult team. Hopefully that was interesting and helpful. And now I'll pass back to Ola to chair the Q&A session.
Thanks, Nathaniel, for the insightful presentation. That was fun. And Ola?
Yeah, thanks so much. First off, we've got a few questions coming in. So let's have a look. 1 second. Okay. While more questions are coming in, let me start off with a question that we've got. So, what would you say is the biggest hidden value of a digital twin?
I can take that one, Nathaniel. I guess one of the things that Nathaniel touched on is the kind of the hidden value really of really understanding your business. You know, the output of the digital twin itself is hugely valuable. You know, predictive maintenance. You can make data-driven decisions based on real-time information. But it's that journey to get there. You learn so much about your business. And I think that's that hidden aspect of creation of the digital twin, the journey as you like. Um, we did that for a biscuit factory. We showed lots of waste of offshoots of misshapes, and eventually they made a business out of it. Because they then sold those misshapes to the public. So it's just having that kind of insight around, what waste is there, but even just looking at that kind of end to end, start to finish, it's really useful just to understand your processes. And as Nathaniel said, a lot of the time you do get surprises.
I'd just like to add to that. There's a couple of times people have mentioned the journey to a digital twin. And actually, a lot of people never get to the stage where they want a full-blown digital twin. But that actual journey of going along that process puts them in such a good position in terms of, as Andy says, understanding their business, but also correcting things in their business. So we find people who don't need to go all the way, but they do want to have real-time information about what's going on in their business. So they put sensors in, IoT, and so you can build up all along and get the benefits out of that without actually ever going near a full-blown digital twin. So I think that's a useful process for companies to look at.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Andy. We've got a question, and I think it relates to what you've just mentioned there, Tom, around the starting point and exploring that journey is how do we make sure that digital twins aren't a one-off project?
It's a good question, but I think that again, it's all about this isn't just an IT project. This is a business project. It's usually a lot of companies go do a whole business transformation as part of this and understanding the process. So it's not a technology or an IT solution. This is something that should be driven by the business and the executives in the business so they can get more out of it. I think that's how you make sure that it's not a one-off project. This should be something that is an ongoing tool that you use over a number of years and adapt as the business adapts. So I think it's a slight mind shift between saying we'll do this for one particular project and actually then using it as a complete methodology, if you like, for your entire business.
Thanks, Tom. Andy, Nathaniel, anything
Yeah,
else?
just adding to that,
Yeah.
even the gathering of the data is quite interesting because if you gather all the data from all your sensors and you don't throw any away, because MQTT is quite light touch, so you can bring in as much data as you like because you don't know what someone else in another part of the business is going to use that data for. They might have a different use case to what the person who's currently championing that use case. But I guess, as Tom said there, it's it's designing it as a capability rather than just a deliverable. It's having that long-term view, and that modular architecture. You can reuse it, and as I say, that you just never know how some, particularly big organizations, small organizations, fair enough. There's usually a common goal around the digital twin, but the bigger the company, the more complicated it is, and you have loads of different people who have different ideas on how they want to use that data. So I guess that you never assume either, but the main thing is build it as a capability, not as a one-off deliverable. Have a long-term view on it.
Yeah, thanks. We've got a question that's come in how do we ensure that digital twins can be self-sovereign and federate across jurisdictions and ownerships? How do you incentivize participation?
That's above my pay grade. That's
Yeah.
that's I'm not even going to try and answer that one. If somebody is serious with that question, we have some people. If somebody here and answer it, that's fine. But I think that's something we should probably take offline. We have some really smart people. Maybe get Mark Boyle involved in discussions with that person.
Yeah, I mean it's all down to availability zones and access areas. So I mean, the, yes, you have to be careful where data resides, and that's very important. I guess the first thing is to make sure that the data is highly secure. The thing that we call it a thing, the Internet of Things. It's the thing that you're creating a digital twin of. Usually comes with like an X59 cert, so that it's highly authenticated, that only the people that should be able to access the data can access it. But when it goes across jurisdictions, that's when you do have other uh, you do have other considerations to make around whether you're allowed to send it across. So it becomes more of a data. The techie bit's the easy bit in that respect. That the data bit and the governance, becomes that needs more than just techies.
Yeah, the center are doing a lot of work around ontology management, so the technical team have really got into that, and that may be a way to do that, where data can reside in a single location but be shared without breaching any of that. But it's a much wider conversation, let's say, and I think if people are interested in that type of thing, I think that's something maybe we should make as a webinar subject. Obviously, some of the organizations we're dealing with are in that defense space, and it's a key consideration for what they're doing. We're talking about a number of companies kind of combining digital twins across different jurisdictions. So again, it's an area that there's a lot of information on, and we have a lot of expertise on, but I wouldn't even attempt to get into this in any sort of detail. I think this is a separate issue.
I think on a tangential note, I'd also just like to pose a question of how important is data security and trustworthiness in the development of digital twins?
Do you want me to do the flippant answer to that first, and then you can do it properly, Andy? It's absolutely vital, and even down to silly things like, sometimes we're talking about where data comes from and the ability to be able to validate that and make sure it's absolutely correct. Because if the data flow changes, the best thing that can happen is that the model breaks. because then you know it's broken. The real danger is if something has changed and you don't know, and now what you're doing is you're feeding fake information or false information into the twin and making decisions on that. So again, that usually isn't an IT decision. That's all around how the business processes run and how you can make sure the information coming in is completely valid, and there will be checks and ways to do that. That's my flippant answer. Andy will have a much better answer than that, though.
I don't know if it's much better, but I guess it's baked in, so security, security of the device and the data that it provides or emits. So a lot of data at high frequency usually. So security has to be built in, from day one, not bolted on afterwards. So again, like I was saying, in terms of the infrastructure, the device itself has to be highly secure, because that's prone to hacking. You imagine those haul trucks operating on some of them autonomous, operating on the Pilbara or somewhere in South Africa. Um, 1 kilometer drop is a few meters away. So if someone hacked in and said turn hard left now or hard right now, there'd be so that it's paramount that the sensor, the gateway, and the device itself is secure. And obviously data in transit at rest is secure. It's just part of the fabric of what you do. It's security and by design is the term, but that is built in.
Great, thank you. We've got time for a few more questions, so please do keep sending those in. But I'd like to also ask about another angle of digital twins, and something that we really strive for here at Digital Catapult is around sustainability. So could you share a little bit more around how digital twins can and do support sustainability measures?
Yeah, I'll kick off for
Yeah.
that one again. I mean, one of the focuses that we have in the center is around the testing and evaluation of products when products are being designed. So when you look at industries like aerospace, and take an extreme example where potentially a wing is being tested. Those things typically are tested physically. So they build a wing, and there's all the energy that goes into creating that wing and all the cost that goes into creating that wing. Then they break it through a series of tests, and then they build another one and they test it again. And so again, what you have is repetition of all this energy and all this stuff being used constantly. If we can come up with standardized ways where some of those tests can be moved digitally to the digital twin, not only does it save a huge amount of time and a huge amount of money, but obviously it saves all that carbon that's being, taken up. So it's kind of a byproduct almost. We talk about it as if that's one of the big things, and it clearly is. It's a big thing within Digital Catapult, but it's a byproduct of a successful digital twinning project.
Thanks,
I think
Tom.
it goes back to, again, what decision are you trying to improve? So if you're looking at that as one of the goals of the twin and you want to model your energy usage, to model emissions, waste, all that sort of stuff, then you can definitely do it. And that means that you can then run tests, you can run simulations. How do you optimize all that? Like Andy said earlier, the food production company we work with, reducing their waste when it came to misshapes, bad cuts, all that sort of stuff was simple to do whenever you had a bullet and you could see what was happening. And increasingly, a lot of the digital twin projects or industry partners that we're speaking with, the funding will come out of ESG budgets because they're able to apply that to these projects. So it's definitely an area that's highly relevant to the digital twin space.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at it, if sustainability is your goal, so we've been working with Department of Agriculture around carbon footprinting of farms, and that is there's a even just the knowledge that it brings of how much carbon is being produced by each farm and various jurisdictions, it becomes, if you think of a Google map and you kind of you're going, here's Northern Ireland, and here's a jurisdiction, an area within Northern Ireland, and then here's the farm itself. It becomes quite a powerful. You're almost like mapping Northern Ireland. You imagine if you then had every building in Northern Ireland mapped. There was some kind of legislation that said that they had every building had to be mapped for its carbon footprint. You could see quite quickly how that information would be really useful, and maybe drive legislation and some of the things that come our way in terms of guidance and guidelines. So it depends what the use case is, but it's highly relevant for sustainability, and it can just be a byproduct as well, as you say that it's a because you're looking at data in so many different facets. It's one of the obvious outputs that and the framework COSIRI, which is a global standard, is around that that kind of discovery around how your carbon footprint of your business. So it's all very relevant.
Yeah, thanks all. One more question. We work a lot with startups in the industry and in the ecosystem. So there's a question here of how can small and medium enterprises match their internal needs with a suitable digital twin development scope that fits with their business. Nathaniel, I see you nodding.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what I said there earlier in the presentation. It's starting small, and that pilot, the same as any transformation process, it's an iterative cycle, iterative journeys where you're starting small with the pilot. You make a decision as to what decision you're going to improve with your digital twin process. And once you've proven your ROI, you build on from there. But the whole process, as Tom and Andy and I have all alluded to, it's a journey that shines lights on areas of your business that you don't often examine or you don't often think about. And that in and of itself builds internal capability in your organization.
Yeah, and I guess it's why the capital, the Digital Twin Center exists, to kind of educate SMEs and work with the likes of ourselves to be key enablers for digital twin. That's why I see us as, we provide the dynamic capabilities that SMEs just don't have, and that can be analysts, developer, skill sets that you don't necessarily have to hire. You just have to have a problem that you want to solve. And if digital twin is part of that, then Tom and the guys, will assist you within that. And of course, if it's transformation in order to get there, companies like ourselves, will also be able to assist with that, setting you up for success. But it is a journey, and it is, you need to know, I guess you need to know what you're trying to achieve as a business, but digital twin is definitely open to SMEs, 100%.
I think the other thing is about making sure that we encourage the tech SMEs alongside potential adopters of digital twins. And I think this is something we've really tried to focus on in the Digital Twin Center. You've seen a lot of the work we've been doing is helping and encouraging and bringing some of those SME tech companies to the fore. And the reason for that's very simple, because if an SME adopter wants to go and build a digital twin for any part of their business at the minute, it's actually quite difficult to go to one of the really large companies and start. I mean, the budgets are just horrendous, easily into 7 and 8 figures for some of the digital twins that we're currently looking at. Clearly, that's not appropriate for a factory with 100 people in it. But that factory with 100 people, and it could actually get, relatively speaking, more benefit out of a digital twin potentially than one of the big multinationals. So we're continuing to focus on making sure we bring SME tech companies like Sans Souci. These things are an opportunity for, organizations to come along and present and demonstrate their ability and their skills. And I think today is a perfect example of where Sans Souci have just highlighted the fact that, a relatively small company, but have huge amount of knowledge, huge amount of capability. And so again, we're trying to encourage people who are adopters to speak to people like Sans Souci and others. We'll have other companies doing this as well, but I think that's a really important thing as well.
Thanks, Tom. All right. I think it'd be great to also know from yourselves on whether you have any insights into how digital twins, alongside an integration and simulation, can be used in other aspects of modeling information, not necessarily from a manufacturing side, but even from a workplace side, for example, for human resources management or any type of bias in a workplace.
Yeah, I think there's just in that question there from Carol there, and it goes to that. It's quite an interesting question to pose, and I think Andy will be able to answer it more technically better than I can. But it's what Tom said earlier. It's maybe a twin isn't the right solution for that. It's a step before it, where you're going to be doing model and simulation. And as I said, in the presentation, sometimes that virtual copy, your actual twin, and your model and simulation, ML ops, and that side of things are interchangeable. Once you've laid the foundation, mapped your processes, got your data flows, you've done all that work, then you can decide what way you're going to go. And that problem set there about the age bias and the HR situation, I think model and simulation could solve that. And then there could be a layer of predictive analytics built on around addressing the workplace setup so that it's conducive to an aging population, like Carol said there.
I think the other point that this kind of perfectly illustrates is digital twins are just a tool, and they're made up of a number of different technologies. So sometimes it's not right even to talk about using a digital twin for something, but this is a perfect example where technologies that make up digital twins are perfectly relevant. And again, I think over this past year or so, we've tried to move away from talking about digital twins in the binary and talking more about digital twin technologies and how they can be used and how they can be exploited. And I think this is a perfect example.
Yeah, because to me that sounds more like scenario planning and modeling simulations. It might turn into a digital twin, but the value that you would have from asking what if questions, what if the biggest example is in the financial industry, banking. Like, so what they would do is not necessarily a digital twin, but in terms of modeling, they would model last week's transactions, with maybe slightly turn the dial on the fraud, the prediction of fraud. And they know that they're going to annoy more people who are trying to make payments, but at the same time they will pick up more fraud. And it's that fine balance. They can run those, they can ask those what if questions, scenario planning, even like goods coming in, imports. What if, even for like resourcing of ports, or what if I had 100 consignments tomorrow, or this sailing? What does that mean in terms of veterinary support, inspectors? That you can ask those pertinent questions and model it before you even, you can model it and see what the results are. A funny one actually, and we were working with DAFM down south of Ireland, and only modeling simulations actually uncovered the fact that they need to cope with a bay, the driver being on both the left and the right. So they had all their their booths set up for right-hand drive, but of course people also drive on the left. So on the so just silly stuff that you'd never expect to to be brought to the fore just by doing some modeling. But yeah, to me that sounds more like modeling rather than digital twin. But as Tom said, it's all similar. It's a journey to get to the digital twin, and it's a combination of modeling simulations and digital twin that to me are the real value. Good digital twin shows you the current data, and that's really important for making current decisions. But also the what if questions are really, really valuable.
Thanks. So I think we've got time for one final question. So I see a question here in the chat, which is, how does this webinar link to the Digital Twin Sandbox initiative, if at all?
Yeah, we can talk about it. I'm really tempted to go, I have no idea, because Toby just asked me, can I answer that question? So, but I won't. So it's part of a number of tools that we have in the center. Is it linked? No, it's not a hard link between this webinar and the Digital Twin Sandbox, but what it is another tool that we have at our disposal. And if organizations want to use that and talk to us about it, then it's something we're quite happy to let people use. So there's a lot of other bits and pieces that we have in the center we don't talk about all the time because it just sounds like a complete sales pitch then. So we're trying to make sure that we're delivering information in nice packets that people can understand and actually do something with rather than just do a complete dump. But if people have questions about specifically how we can help them in the center, regardless of what the issue is, feel free to talk to us. And yes, if you want to use our sandbox, we're happy to let you do that.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Andy and Nathaniel as well. I'll hand it over now to Asan as that wraps up our Q&A section. And we'll hear a little bit more about the opportunities and activities in the center.
Thanks, Ola. Hi, everyone. My name is Yasin Mukhtar. I'm the Innovation Manager at the UK Digital Twin Center, and I'm excited to take you through an overview of what we have to offer, alongside what has already been discussed, and how you can get involved. Toby, next slide, please. So let's begin by understanding the journeys we are supporting. So for companies who are trying to understand digital twins better, we have webinars like these, and masterclasses. For companies who are further down the line and want to create proof of concept or of an idea that they're working on, we have an accelerator program, which I'll talk in much more detail later on in the presentation. And lastly, we have labs and real world environment within the center for more mature companies. Um, but at the heart of all of this is our belief in partnerships. We are actively connecting SMEs, tech vendors, and industry leaders to encourage knowledge sharing and unlock new commercial opportunities. Next slide, please. Um, and one of the first touch points for organizations like yourselves is our readiness assessment. In order for us to understand where you fall in that journey, this tool helps not only you but also identify for us as well where you are in your digital twin journey and how we can best support you. It's a quick, insightful way and a great way to map out potential collaboration paths for you at the UK Digital Twin Center. To be next slide, please. One of the offerings that we have for SMEs is our Digital Twin Adoption Accelerator program. It is for pre-formed teams of SME industry adopter and a tech vendor to work together on a proposed digital twin use case and build a proof of concept within 7 months. Um, Open call for, in fact, this accelerator program launched about a month ago, and it is still open, and it closes in on 10th October, which is in 8 days. So I encourage you, if you have an idea that you're working on and have a tech industry adopter, please apply. We are providing £100,000 of funding as part of this program. Through this program, we are trying to provide SMEs with a safe and supported pathway to de-risk their commercial projects, turning them into high potential ideas and generating revenue along the way. Next slide, please. So, like I said, £100,000 is part of the funding support that we are providing, distributed among the companies. But other than that, there's mentoring support throughout the course of 7 months. We have an in-house tech team who is going to supporting you on that. Access to Digital UK Twin Center and our lab facilities. Opportunities to showcase your solutions to stakeholders at the events that we are going to organize, and to our partners as well, and access to our extensive digital catapult network for partnerships and growth. Next slide, please, Toby. Who is this program designed for? We are looking for teams that bring together especially two key players. Like I said, an SME technology vendor, a company who is providing or creating digital twin solutions, uh, partnering up with an SME industry adopter, a company looking to integrate those solutions into their operations. So we looking for these consortium partners to apply together. Both the companies must be UK registered, and ideally industry adopters should operate in the maritime, aerospace, and defense sectors, while technology vendors should specialize in one or more digital twin technologies areas, which in fact Ola initially in her presentation talked about. This collaboration will ensure practical, high impact use cases that will deliver real world value. How we are evaluating these applications? So we'll evaluate proposals based on innovation, how unique and impactful your digital solution is, how aligned both the partners are, so collaboration quality as well, feasibility in terms of how realistic and achievable your project plan is, especially in the course of 7 months. What's the operational and commercial impact that you plan on delivering? Alignment with, like I said, our target sectors, maritime, aerospace, and defense. So we want to fund projects that not only push boundaries but also demonstrate clear value for the industry. So if all of this sounds an opportunity for your business, we encourage you to apply and become part of this accelerator program. Um, I'm posting this link here. So if you think you are right fit and an SME partner to enter the program, you can scan this QR code and apply for the accelerator program. You can find the guidelines required in the application as well. Next slide, please, Toby. One other offering that we have is which is coming up is an accelerator program which is more focused on R&D. We are calling it an academic accelerator. This accelerator is focused and is designed to engage academia in solving complex industry challenges. The challenges itself will be identified directly by our industry advisory panel, which will include tier one companies working in aerospace, maritime, and defense sectors. So once the challenges are published, academic institutions and RTO, the research technology organizations, will be invited to propose their solutions. So this is going to be a great opportunity to apply your cutting edge research to real world problems with tangible industry relevance. Successful applicants will also receive funding as part of this program as well. Next slide, Toby. Before we close our webinar, I would like to say a special thanks to Nathaniel and Andrew and also Tom for sharing exciting presentations and being part of the question answer sessions. We are incredibly excited about what lies ahead for the UK digital twins ecosystem, and even more so about the role you can play in shaping it. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. That's it from us for today. Have a great rest of the day.